The people who know the most about money are often the ones who end up with the least of it. There are people with MBAs from elite universities who are living paycheck to paycheck. There are financial advisors who cannot fund their own retirement. There are economists, people who literally study money for a living, who carry high interest credit card debt. And then there's the other side of that coin. A man named Ronald Read worked at a gas station and as a janitor for most of his life. He drove a used car. He wore secondhand clothes that he fastened with safety pins. When he died in 2014, at the age of 92, he left behind an $8 million estate, most of which he donated to a local library and hospital. No MBA, no financial certification, no special access to information. So here's the question worth sitting with. If wealth were primarily a knowledge problem, why do so many of the most financially educated people fail to build it? And why do people like Ronald Read quietly accumulate fortunes without any of that education? The answer has almost nothing to do with what you know, and almost everything to do with how you're wired. But to understand how that's possible, we first need to dismantle a belief most people have never once questioned. We're taught, almost universally, to treat wealth as an information problem. Want to get healthier? Learn about nutrition. Want to improve at a skill? Study it, practice it. So it feels completely logical that to build wealth, you just need to learn more about money. And the internet has made this easier than at any point in human history. There are more books, courses, podcasts, and YouTube channels on personal finance than you could consume in a lifetime. The information is effectively free. Compound interest, index funds, spend less than you earn, avoid lifestyle inflation, start early. Most people already know this. Not as a vague concept. They genuinely understand it. And yet knowing something and consistently doing it are two completely different cognitive acts. You can understand exactly how compound interest works, feel genuinely excited about it, open an investment account, and still drain it 6 months later when something more immediate catches your attention. Because the obstacle to wealth isn't in your spreadsheet, it's in your skull. The first psychological trap is one of the most elegantly cruel in all of behavioral economics. It's called present bias, and here's the brutal version of it. Your brain literally treats your future self like a stranger. This isn't a metaphor. Neuroscientists ran studies where they asked people to think about their future selves while monitoring brain activity. What they found was that the same neural regions activated as when people think about strangers they've never met. Not family, not close friends, strangers. Think about what that means for saving money. When you transfer $300 into a retirement account today, your brain isn't registering that as a gift to yourself. It's registering it as giving money to someone you don't emotionally know. The present version of you wants coffee and a new phone, and dinner somewhere nice is vivid, real, and immediate. The future version of you, who will benefit from decades of compounding returns, is psychologically abstract. And we consistently, reliably prioritize the vivid and immediate over the abstract and distant every single time. Let's say you're aware of present bias. You automate your savings. You're genuinely disciplined. Then you get a raise. Congratulations. You've just handed your psychology a new problem called lifestyle inflation. And it operates with remarkable stealth. As income rises, spending rises in parallel, often in small, completely reasonable feeling increments. The slightly nicer apartment, the car lease instead of the used car, the "I've worked hard and I deserve this" that feel entirely justified when taken one at a time. Imagine a treadmill that automatically increases speed every time you get fitter. You're working harder. You're genuinely improving, but the destination stays exactly as far away as when you started. That's lifestyle inflation. The more you earn, the more your new spending baseline feels normal. And the wealth gap? The distance between what you earn and what you actually keep stays stubbornly constant. Here's the cruelest part. Each individual upgrade feels reasonable. You're not spending recklessly. You're just adjusting to your new reality. And that's exactly the trap. But lifestyle inflation isn't even the most expensive one. There's another force at work, one that operates completely in the open, and most people willingly participate in it every single day. Here's a question worth sitting with honestly. Who are you spending money for? There's a deeply human pattern studied extensively in behavioral economics called social signaling. We don't just buy things for utility. We buy them as messages to communicate status, taste, and success to the people around us. And in the era of social media, this has become something close to an economic epidemic. People are performing wealth rather than building it. The expensive leases and watches and designer pieces aren't always purchased for personal enjoyment. They're purchased for the audience, a silent performance in an invisible theater. That often consists primarily of people they don't particularly like, and they're performing it with money they'd have been better off investing. Here's the dark irony. The people they're most trying to impress, the genuinely wealthy, are rarely impressed because they know what the real scoreboard looks like. It's not what you drive, it's what you own, minus what you owe. And most of the vehicles in the luxury section of the car park, they're legally owned by a leasing company. Now we get to what might be the most financially damaging cognitive bias in existence. Loss aversion. In the 1970s, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky discovered something peculiar. We don't evaluate gains and losses symmetrically. Losing $100 feels psychologically approximately twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. This sounds like a minor quirk. The consequences are enormous. Consider this. If someone offered you a coin flip, heads wins you $150, tails loses you $100. Would you take it? Mathematically, you should, every time. The expected value is positive, but most people won't. The potential loss looms larger than the potential gain, even when the numbers are clearly in their favor. Now, apply that to long-term investing. Historically, the stock market has produced positive returns in roughly 70 to 75% of years. But in the years where it drops, the red screens, the breathless financial news, the sense of watching your savings shrink, the emotional pain overwhelms rational analysis. People sell at exactly the wrong moment. They wait for safety before buying back in, which means buying back in after the recovery. They lock in losses and miss the gains. Loss aversion makes people avoid the exact risks that build wealth over time, and it makes them take precisely the wrong action, but at precisely the worst moment. The final barrier is the one people talk about least, because acknowledging it requires admitting something uncomfortable. Your environment is not neutral. The financial environment most people live inside has been engineered by teams of behavioral economists, UX researchers, and psychologists to extract short-term spending decisions from them as efficiently as possible. One-click purchasing, flash sales that expire in 23 hours, pay later services that make large purchases feel psychologically small, influencer culture that turns consumption into identity and identity into social currency, notification systems designed to interrupt your attention and redirect it toward an opportunity to spend. Imagine you decided to eat healthier, but every room in your house had a bowl of candy at eye level. Every hour, and someone rang your doorbell with a fresh batch. And every app on your phone served you curated images of people enjoying candy and looking happy because of it. That is not a willpower problem. That is an environment problem. Most financial advice treats wealth building as a discipline challenge. It isn't, or rather, it's not primarily that. It's an environmental architecture challenge. And most people are attempting to win that challenge using willpower alone, against opponents operating with billion-dollar behavioral science budgets. That is not a really fair fight. So if willpower alone can't win this, what actually does? Because the people who build real wealth aren't more disciplined than everyone else. They're doing something fundamentally different. And it's almost embarrassingly simple. Here's what the research consistently shows about the people who do build wealth over time. They don't have more willpower than everyone else. They don't have dramatically better information. What they have is better architecture. They've deliberately designed their financial environment so that the default behavior, the path of least resistance, is the right behavior. Automatic investment transfers that happen before the money is ever visible in a checking account. Social environments that normalize building wealth rather than performing it. A deliberate reduction in the daily visibility of status pressure and commercial noise. Think of it this way. Knowledge without behavioral design is like having a detailed map but no vehicle. Or worse, a car with no steering wheel. You know exactly where you want to go. You understand the route perfectly, but the vehicle is designed to drift. Wealth isn't a problem you solve once with the right information. It's a behavioral engineering project, a continuous, deliberate effort to make the right financial behavior, the easiest financial behavior. And the question you should be asking isn't, what do I still need to learn? It's, what have I made automatic? What does my financial default look like when I'm tired, distracted, or emotionally reactive? Because that's when the real financial decisions get made. Which brings us to the part nobody wants to hear. Because there's one final layer to this, and it specifically targets people who consider themselves financially aware. There's a particular kind of financial danger that comes specifically with intelligence. The smarter you are, the more confident you become in your own instincts. And instincts, as we've seen, are precisely, almost elegantly calibrated to undermine you in the modern financial world. Present bias makes you prioritize today over tomorrow. Lifestyle inflation makes every upgrade feel earned and reasonable. Social comparison turns other people's consumption into a psychological standard you feel quietly compelled to match. Loss aversion makes you flinch away from the investments most likely to compound over time. And $1 trillion commercial infrastructure has been purpose-built to exploit every single one of these tendencies, simultaneously, continuously in your pocket. The most dangerous sentence in personal finance isn't, I don't know enough. It's more like, I know what I'm doing. Wealth, it turns out, is not the reward for knowing more. It's the reward for consistently behaving in ways that your instincts actively resist. Not through heroic daily willpower, but through quietly, deliberately designing a financial life, where the right behavior is simply what happens by default. Ronald Read, the janitor with $8 million, didn't win because he outsmarted the market or discovered some hidden financial secret. He won because he never gave his own psychology a real chance to beat him. That's not a knowledge problem, that's architecture. In the end, I want to leave you with one question to sit with. If you look at your life with absolute honesty, what is that one expense you currently have that exists purely for the audience and not for you? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be reading and replying to them personally.